John, I kind of want to move to kind of scholarships and budgets with programs, and you talk about why there may be modifications and offers for both men's and women's programs.
So, as most people are probably aware, the NCAA announced recently that all spring sport athletes, which includes the sport of golf, who used a year of eligibility during the 2019-2020 season, could file a waiver, I believe it's called, to get that year of eligibility back. And that sounds great. And a lot of people are going to take advantage of that and have the opportunity to play another year in college. But it definitely creates some challenges for the administration, for the coaches, in terms of managing roster sizes and scholarships. The NCAA did say that any of those returning seniors who are going to play essentially a fifth year of eligibility next year, that if they are on scholarship and their scholarships are renewed, it will not count against the team's limit under NCAA rules. So they're kind of giving them a 1 year grace period to work through that. But beginning in fall of 2021, the following school year will be back to the normal 4.5 for men's programs, 6.0 for women's programs in Division I golf. It's also my understanding if anybody were to transfer immediately this fall to a different school, their scholarship would count against the limits. So coaches right now, the coaches I've talked to, and Rich probably has some input on this too, the coaches I've spoken with are trying to figure out, how many players are going to be on their team, who's graduating, who's staying, how does that affect future recruiting. I do think it backs up the line a little bit because normally there's a certain amount of attrition with players graduating. And I think with this opportunity, some of the seniors will stay. A lot of them won't. A lot of them plan to graduate. They plan to go work. They already have a career plan in place. The juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, they don't have to make that decision for 1 to 3 years. There may be a case where a player wants to stay at a school and do a +1, master's degree program. But I do think it'll create some challenges for recruits. I do think teams, will be backed up in terms of slowing down the attrition and opening up space on teams. But I think on the other side of the ledger, I think there's going to be some challenges for international players. There may be a delay for some of them coming back to the States to go to school. So that might create some vacancies on team rosters where coaches can recruit extra players. And I don't know this for sure, but I sense, and I'd like to get Rich's opinion too, but I sense there could be some families who don't want their son or daughter to go off to college next year. They might ask them to take a year off and, work in the family business or go to a community college closer to home for that year to kind of let everything settle down. So that too could potentially create some recruiting opportunities. So the bottom line in all of this, Trevor, is I think coaches are trying to figure it out. There's no playbook that answers all these questions. They're also trying to manage how they evaluate players with no tournaments. I think they're looking at swing videos and TrackMan data and talking to swing coaches and, interviewing players on phone calls and trying to figure out who the right players are for them to recruit. And the last thing I'll say is, this fall, we're still all waiting to see what just a normal college campus, what that landscape is going to look like with respect to normal classes versus online. And obviously, if universities don't open back up this fall, there's a pretty good chance there won't be any or a lot of the fall sports happening, and that includes football. So we need to wait and see how all that unfolds, because I think that could affect golf and some of the other sports too down the road. So still a wait and see, but there will be some challenges for coaches to face. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Brooksy. And, certainly the coaches I've talked to, they're trying to figure it out, like you said. And, when we talk to families, they kind of want to know, okay, what are coaches? Well, coaches are trying to figure it out now, and they're managing that and, trying to get a sense of what juniors and sophomores and freshmen, like you said, are going to come back or not come back. I know, a lot of families maybe look at roster size of a particular school as a barometer for if they'd want to be on a big program or a small program player wise, but also, okay, there's 3 juniors graduating. Maybe there's going to be 3 spots open for such and such team. That's going to, and that's one way to do it for sure, and usually pretty close. But I think now it's going to be totally thrown for a loop. And that may not be as accurate. And as these universities go through changes, athletic departments go through changes financially, maybe there's more of a roster limit than there has been. Some schools have huge rosters, some schools already have small rosters. Maybe that that's a change. So it's I think as players are identifying schools, they're going to have, I think players need to be a lot more open-minded right now and probably cast a little wider net than maybe they had originally anticipated doing because of all this, because it is going to be a little bit more uncertain really for, classes going back to 2022 or 2023. It doesn't just affect, this junior class of 2021, right? I think it's going to affect everybody to some degree.